Welcome to Sravz Technical Series. In today's session, we'll discuss how to upgrade Airflow 2 to Airflow 3 in Docker Swarm. At Sravz, we run Airflow in Docker Swarm, and I already upgraded the Airflow 2 to Airflow 3. This is the new AI, and the DAGs are running fine, all green bar. So today we'll discuss how we did the upgrade and also the benefits of Airflow 3. So these are the topics we will discuss. At the high level, the architectural differences. In Airflow 2, we had the worker nodes connecting directly to the metadatabase, but in Airflow 3, the worker nodes connect to the API server. So this way, the API server can use a connection pool and update the database with maybe one or two connections based on the connection pool setting. And the worker nodes will update the metadata server. In the earlier version, when worker nodes were directly connecting to the metadatabase, and if you have a task group with thousands of tasks in it, each task would create a connection to the metadatabase. So that would slow down the Airflow whole environment because the metadata server will go out of memory, and then you have to restart the metadata server. So it was not a scalable solution. In Airflow 3, that dependency is removed. So now the workers directly connect to the API server. And the second change, which is good in Airflow 3, is we have a separate DAG processor to process the DAGs and update the metadatabase. Earlier, the scheduler was processing the DAGs. So if anybody pushes an invalid Python file during the DAG parsing, that Python file, if it is invalid, the scheduler would fail and none of the tasks would be scheduled. But now, since DAG processor is a separate process, even if some DAG fails, the processor would fail, but the scheduler would still schedule the DAGs. So that's another benefit. So primarily because of these two reasons, I upgraded Airflow 2 to Airflow 3 at Sravz, and it is running fine without any issues. So all the DAGs are running green bar. And also in Airflow 3, now you can see the health of the various processes. For some reason it's showing red here. Maybe there was a connection issue, but yeah, it is showing green. So this way you can see which service is down, and then accordingly you can troubleshoot. So that's another benefit of Airflow 3. So now I'll go through the source code. These are the environment variables I needed, at least for my environments, for the environment to run. So these four are important variables. Using these four variables, JWT token and the base URL, the worker node, the workers will connect to the API server. API server, using a shared secret, will create a JWT token, a bearer token, and then the workers will verify that token and then post back to API server using that bearer token. So due to that JWTC Java Web Token framework, we need these four variables. If we don't specify these, the workers will not be able to connect to API server and they will not process any work. So that is one requirement in Airflow 3. Now I'll go through the Docker Compose for the Swarm environment, Docker Swarm. These are the networks in Docker Swarm. This is traffic, and traffic has a bunch of secrets. So this is standard traffic. It's on the network web. Then this is the API server with the command Airflow db migrate and Airflow API server. In my environment, I do db migrate before starting the API server. So this way, whenever I change the Airflow version, the db migration automatically happens. Now, in your environment, if you have any connections or variables in the database, then it is best to take a backup, then do db migrate separately, restore, etc. So at Sravz, we don't use the Airflow database for connections and connections, etc. So it's a throwaway database. So that's the reason I do db migrate here. If db migrate fails, I'll just empty out the Postgres database and start from scratch. So it works for us, but in your case, it might be different. Then you have the Postgres database. In Airflow 2, I had to keep max connections is equal to 500 because, as I mentioned, the workers connect to the database directly. So if you have many tasks running at the same time, you would run out of connections. But in Airflow 3, we don't need this high setting, but I just let it be for now for Airflow. So this is the standard Postgres service. Then we have the Airflow scheduler. It takes the same set of environment variables. Then the entry point is Airflow and command is scheduler. So this way the scheduler runs, and it is on the internal network because scheduler just needs the database, not the web. Then we have the DAG processor, which is again entry point is Airflow and command is DAG processor, and then network is internal too. This Docker Swarm compose file. I got it from one of the references at the Airflow website, so you can use that one. But in my case, I just simplified it so that it runs in the Swarm. Then there's celery flower, all these dependencies. If you look at the services other than the web server, every other service is dependent on the web Airflow Web. The reason being, Airflow Web service will do the DB migrate, so I want to wait for the DB migration to complete and the Airflow Web to come up before I start any other services. So that's why I put Airflow Web as a dependency on other services. Then there's Airflow Celery Worker, Airflow Triggerer as the command triggerer, and then entry point Airflow. And then this is Redis, standard Redis service definition. And then this is Redis primary and this is Redis secondary. The primary will take the reads and writes. The secondary would be the read replica. In Airflow case, I just use Redis primary. This Redis secondary is for a different use case, but not related to Airflow. But for now, I just let it be in this Docker compose file. And then these are the secrets. And yeah, that's how I run the Airflow in Docker Swarm, and it is running fine as I showed you in the UI here. So with that, I'll close today's session. If you have any questions or comments, please reach me out in the discussion tab here or in the YouTube channel. Thank you for watching.